Uh, I will flip over to the YouTube channel, and there will be... hello. Good. So I have my YouTube chat up. I also have the forum chat up, so I will hopefully be able to take questions from either of those places. Mostly today we're doing a original character chat. So back when we first started Colossal Kaiju Combat, we were soliciting character ideas from people, and hundreds and hundreds of character ideas, thousands, were coming in, and everybody was asking me all the time, Simon, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And so I came up with a policy of not talking about people's characters, which saved me a lot of time and trouble. But now we're moved into a different sort of space, and I'm doing these twice a month, 3 times a month weekend chats where I get people to talk about their original characters, and I give my opinions about what's strong or not strong. We have a bunch of winners from last week. We selected our characters for our first series, Rise of the Space Knights. So we have some of those to talk about at least. Any issues with the stream? Alright. Who wants to go first? Alright. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Side note, stuff going on with me. My girlfriend, who is pregnant, is due any day. Anytime. Could have happened yesterday. Could be happening today. So I keep getting updates from her. Hasn't happened yet. So that will be a relief for everyone. Mostly her, I think, when that resolves itself. So if I get a little distracted, periodically I get updates on that. Let's see. Eva Lampos says, oh, it's not on for me, it seems. Sad. Okay. Any... let's see. What? Babs is confused. Let's see. No one's given me a link. That's okay. Oh, everyone's going to wait for someone else to go first. Great. That means we won't have to do anything. I can just sit here and talk about other stuff. Hey, in other news that no one else can see, these are the character cards for my board game, the World Ship. These are the version 1.3 cards, and I've almost completely finished my 1.5 revision. Oh, maybe I should hold those where you can actually see them. Ooh. Anyway, I've almost completely finished that. I just need to review the treachery cards, which of course, a terrible thing to do, and everyone's favorite part of the game. Oh, Sweet Tooth has said he'll go first. Oh. Huh. Oh, people are so literal. Yes. Yes. People can't post links in the YouTube chat, and so they were momentarily confused. I was like, how do you communicate with me every other day? Use any of those methods. So. Oh, there we go. All right, first one is my immediate thought is that name is a little tricky to pronounce. Megalosuchus, the Apex Queen. Uh, Apex has kind of already been used. It's a little overused at this point. That's fine. We've got a sweet aquatic kaiju that's got front legs, so it could easily sort of seal crawl alligator, shuffle its way on the land for land battle. But it's clearly an aquatic thing. Got big fins. I always wonder if fins of that size would make sense. Most fins in reality are, a few inches to maybe a foot in length, and a fin that's 50 foot, would that make any sense? Pectoral slash. Does it mean it slashes people's pectorals as a primary attack? Predator's Curse. Wow, this is very similar to Sarcostion. Engineered, yes. Destroyed the lab and escaped to the Pacific Ocean. Very, very, very similar to Sarcostion. Is that intentional? I don't see. I don't. Huh. Okay. Could be dangerous on land and the sea. So, any sort of origin, any sort of story can be fine. But, let's see. Put it another way. I'm always partial to stories where the idea that there are kaiju, or that there could be a kaiju, is somewhat novel. And a story that begins with, they wanted a kaiju that was like this, and so they made one. It's not very interesting. It leads me to, like, do people have kaiju as pets? Are most people kaiju? Are there thousands of kaiju just running around? Is it boring to be kaiju? Is this character boring then? If a character is not unique and weird and exciting, I don't know. As fans, we deal with all these kaiju, right? But the world that they live in can't be saturated with kaiju in the same way that our lives can be. And so it's important when you have an origin story that you capture some of that. Oh my goodness, this is a crazy, remarkable thing that's happened. It can't just be, you know how there are lots of kaiju? This is one, but it has 2 feathers instead of 3. You can discuss designs like that when you're making sketches or comparing things with friends, but that's not an origin story. That's not in the world. I talked last time about the importance of putting the origin story in the world of the character, and I think this is an extension of that. So, okay. The good news is the art looks cool. It's well designed in sort of that. It's got that exciting tail. The tail looks very percentile. It has a lot of alligator sort of characteristics, which I think is a nice way to make an aquatic thing. Obviously, fish don't work so well on land. The jaw is a little over the top, although that's kind of Woodzilla style, right? They have the huge jaw hinging stuff. He loves to do that. Okay, Megalosuchus. There's my thoughts. Here we go. From Sweet Tooth, Valag, the scientific stabilizer. Okay. Looks like it's got a holographic head above its robot body. That is some sweet art too. It's really it's interesting. Just talking about the quality of the art, but you can see that this is somebody who's really worked on improving the sort of the cleanliness of the lines and getting all the curves to be really nice. But they still need more experience because they've messed up the perspective in some of the bits, which is an interesting problem to have. That you can see a lot of experiences really improve the quality of the lines, and yet, they haven't practiced certain things enough, which, of course, we've all not practiced things enough until we've put in the time to practice them enough. So that shouldn't be a negative. Let's see. Valag. Spike roll. Oh, I like it if it rolls into a ball. Plasma mines. Electrical discharge. Gains energy through breaks from combat. I'm not fond of that energy style description. That's fine mechanically in a game. that's a weird way to talk about yourself. And again, I really like it when all the descriptions and the text is in the world of the character. I gain energy by taking breaks from combat. That was weird. Um, can get to a point where we must reboot. Okay, I like that. Ooh, okay. So he's an alien scientist. Excellent. All aliens are scientists, right? Or warmongers. Um, yes. They're wrong. Okay. So he has to build armor to defend himself, his planet, his city. Uh, oh, okay. And then he, through exciting scientific one-time accidents, his consciousness gets transformed or transferred into the robot body. Okay. So, another comment. That's not dissimilar from what you did with Biosapien. But maybe that's Sweet Tooth's favorite thing is heroic, innocent characters who become kaiju sort of accidentally and then get to be super and awesome and heroic. A comment I have about Biosapien, which pertains a little bit here as well, is that it seems a little like wish fulfillment, a little like, well, I would never choose to be transformed into a monster, but if it happened, I'd be super awesome and very helpful. And I think the kaiju are a little more interesting when there's a little more tragedy to it. Like if some innocent person gets transferred into a robot body or into a kaiju, and then they're able to do, save their city and protect everybody, like that's exciting. But being a giant robot all day, every day, that's got to be sort of awful, right? Like there should be definitely some tragedy. Classically, think about the Thing from Fantastic Four, right? He's a superhero. That's awesome. He's powerful. People really like him. He's a very popular character. He has lots of friends, but he's not human, and that really hurts him. It bothers him all the time. He's moody and kind of upset about it, and that tragedy is a key part of his character. And so even when he's happy and things are going well, there's an undercurrent that makes him more emotionally complex. And I don't think you should shy away from that. If someone gets transformed into a kaiju, the tragedy is there, and you should acknowledge it. So there we go. In general, I like the lines of this guy. I like that the shape of the robot has that sort of alien proportionality to it. I think that's real good. I don't see a description in the text. I may have missed it about the hologram head. So I don't know if that was just something that Wei did in the art, or if that was an important part of the character. Yes. All right, jumping on. Oh, they're flying in. Oh, Doll Thing. Have I not discussed this? I think I've talked about Doll Thing before. I definitely have made the comparison to the Patchwork Girl from Wizard of Oz, who had all sorts of interesting powers from not being alive and being able to take her body apart and put it back together or fix herself or, not really be injured. So my understanding is that Doll Thing is meant to be a support, some sort of a healer, something like that. Okay. Yeah, and I like the contrast between the soft, pliable body bits and the metal bits. Like it's a cloth cyborg. That's pretty interesting. I would probably some of this art has less metal. I would definitely go with more metal. I would have metal periodically throughout the body. I think that's a lot more interesting. Yeah, so the giant fabric-based fighter kaiju is pretty interesting. Yeah. So I'm actually very interested because this was one of our winners. I'm interested to think about how to implement this character's sort of power set as a card. I'm thinking something like can't take damage in combat, or can only take damage from weapons, or something like that. Something where she can sort of like jump out and just tank all the damage, but isn't very effective as a fighter. Could also do something about aiding regeneration or healing people up, or she could have somewhat low fortitude, but she could heal after combats. However, all those ideas have already been done. We already have characters who heal others. We also have characters who heal after combats. In fact, Flitz, another Space Knight, already has that exact combat ability. So, giving Dollfast a slightly different take on that is interesting. So I'll just say also that healing effects are very, very dangerous in card games, in video games, all the time. Healing effects can give people the wrong idea about how to play games. We made a survival mode with Mecha King Ghidorah, right? And because Mecha King Ghidorah had an ability to actually increase his health over where it was, people would play survival mode thinking that they were supposed to heal up as much as they took damage so they could play survival mode for a long time. And this meant that Mecha King Ghidorah played survival mode completely differently from everyone else. And once you'd played it that way, playing it with everyone else felt confusing and wrong. Which is so backwards. Instead of saying everyone else is correct and Mecha King Ghidorah has an ability that breaks the game, but because it was a positive, powerful ability, people didn't see it that way. Instead, they said that only Mecha King Ghidorah can play survival and everyone else is broken. So you have to be really careful. Just introducing too much healing, or the concept that you maybe could heal or maybe you should heal a lot, really messes up sort of the flow of the game. With combat games, you want people to go in and fight, and the way you win is by winning fights before your opponent has won too many fights. You don't win the game by fighting and then stalling out so you can 100% heal, because stalling is boring. But people will do it. People will do horrible things that they hate if they think that it gives them a mechanical advantage. So you have to be very careful not to introduce mechanical advantages that will lead to that sort of player behavior. So that's not a lot about Dolphing, but we're going to see more of Dolphing in the future, so I'm not too worried. Oh, we're just ripping through them today. Let's see. Valnu, the Vehicular Space Knight. Okay. By what virtue is this character vehicular? Let's see. Alright, looks like it's a big wheel. It's like a hamster wheel kaiju? Or is there somebody in the middle of it? Some of the art seems to imply that. Ooh, maybe it's like a Dragoon, or like a... the Protoss race in StarCraft, they start out as Templar, excuse me, who run around and look like themselves with big blades. But if they get too injured, their minds get put into battle suits so they can go back and keep fighting. Oh no, but this looks like... Okay. No, he's kind of like Iceman. He's got a method by which he can slide around, and so he has a big wheel that he slides on. Okay. It's got psychic abilities. Okay. If you want to have high mobility and range combat like this, you're probably going more towards a glass cannon type character, somebody who's going to try to stay away from damage. In the context of a card game, that can be a little tricky. In the video game, I can ensure that everyone has the tools necessary, but in the card game, someone might build a combat deck with 0 weapons, for example. And so if weapons are your weakness, maybe you just crush them. That's not very interesting. I like that the wheel is described as sleek and futuristic. Even though it's already here, and he has been a Space Knight for a long time, it's still futuristic. Very nice. Okay. Yeah. This wheel concept, it gives me sort of a Krang vibe. Like the actual character is small and not important, but is inhabiting something larger. I guess we also did that with like Marrow, the Born Keeper, or even with Cymothea, which is the parasite. I think I'd like the wheel to be a little more important, a little more, like I said before, if the character actually became the wheel. So maybe in his youth he rode on the wheel, right? And then he got older and wasn't fast enough, and so actually just kind of had himself built into the wheel, or had his consciousness transferred, like really became the wheel. That might be more interesting. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. There's also a flag that looks like it would just roll through the mud, but it's always at the top in the pictures, so that's a little interesting. All right, moving on. Dreamwalker, the Shadow of Devastation. Okay. Is it really a shadow? Shadow flames, shadow tail whip, shadow sword. Uh-huh. He has 3 heads with almost human faces. What is an almost human face? Okay, there's got black holes. Oh yes, right. It's coming out of the black hole. The manifestation formed entirely of shadow, feeding off fear. So I feel like that's actually a contradiction. Formed of shadow, spooky. It's exciting. Feeds off fear. That's not a shadow. That could be insubstantial, but it's. I feel like if you're feeding off energies and emotions of people, that's different than being made of shadow, right? I feel like those are different things, and the shadow concept I feel is the stronger one here. So I would probably just change up the feeding on fear bit. Yeah. Strong against light because he's a shadow. Does that make him weak against darkness? That's weird. I'd probably make him weak to beams, actually. Yeah. I think you've just gone a little too much here. I think being formed of shadow, coming from a dark hole, telepathically assaulting people, that's all cool. But feeding off fear and energy emotions, I think that takes you in a different direction and one you don't need. You're already a scary space beast, so just being formed of shadow and coming from a black hole, that's good enough. Parsidion, the cosmic vessel. I think it's an interesting trend. People forming their character threads as poles. I think that's not a good idea. A poll is when you ask a question and you're going to get responses on your question. But a character thread is for the development of a character, and so the character changes. And so having a poll at the start of your thread says, "Do you like it?" Well, first of all, having people click yes or no for do they like it doesn't really tell you anything. You'd much rather have people post and make a sentence and give you a real thought. But also, what if they don't like it and then you improve it and then they like it? I feel like the poll is putting some weird stuff on you. Oh, people are asking, can we post links even if we didn't win? Absolutely. This is not for winners. This is for everybody. Let me answer. I assume that everyone watching is watching and thus listening to my words and will hear me say the answer, but I feel a little compelled to still type the answer in chat just in case people come around a little later. He has lots of friends. Oh, sorry, I'm just rereading the chat about what I've said, which is interesting. Okay. The cosmic vessel. Those are words. They don't say anything to me. Cosmic vessel has stuff. A thing that exists in the universe that has stuff. Okay. Okay, it's got a good stance. Looks very terrestrial. Actually, very evocative of Crystalac. Yes. Oh my goodness. Also, I'm noticing that Abyssal Ruler has a signature that is much too large. Please shrink that down. Um, we put in new rules for the signatures you can have on your profile, but I did not go back and edit all the ones that broke those rules. I did on some of them, and so some people, and maybe Abyssal Ruler is one of these, have been unable to edit their signature because it's already too big, so it's already invalid, and so they try to make some changes. They can't do it because what they have to do is delete all that stuff to get back under the threshold of what's legal before they can really be making changes. So 31% female. Confusing. That's not how we do gender. Let's see. Composed of comets and asteroids and planets, space debris, and sure, extraterrestrial souls. Another quibble. What's an extraterrestrial soul? A non-human soul? Because I'm sure every alien species thinks of themselves as real and thinks as, the aliens as everyone else, and so, right? Yeah, nobody's an alien. Everyone else is an alien, but yeah. They have propeller protrusions. Why do you have a propeller in space? That doesn't make any sense. You can't push off against anything. I like the informal language in the description, sorta like. 400 billion millennia. Alright, that's a lot of... it seems a little silly. That's like saying billion, trillion, quadrillions. I mean, it seems... And you don't have to impress us with how many years you've put things out there. I mean, you've already got something that's longer than the current estimates for the age of our universe. So that's weird. Okay. Alright, I'm reading these words. This was one. What was one? This was one of the many alternate routes to the certain universe, which is where all the alien races have been fighting long enough to have accumulated a great amount of genocide. I am confused. One such battle had ripped a hole in the space-time continuum and formed a black hole. Okay, but you started the paragraph with, this was one. But now we're talking about the hole. This had also played out to a bad incident as well, and may have led... Alright, throw that all out. And they never found... okay, what I get from this is that a monster was created, and words, we don't know. But that's okay. The key thing here is that composed of comets and asteroids and debris from space. Okay, fine. So the same way we had Agrodora, who says, oh, we have so many dead giant kaiju, we've got a kaiju graveyard, and Agrodora forms from pieces of that graveyard. And so similarly, you could say you got a bunch of kaiju bits and asteroids and kaiju energy floating around in free space, and so you've got sort of the cosmic Agrodora. That's cool. The character looks very standing on ground, like I live on a planet. It doesn't look very I live in space. Yeah, I mean the stance has such a weight to it. It doesn't look like an outer space cosmic flying around in the void sort of thing at all. Yeah, so I would kind of cycle around on that. Either you're making a space thing that kind of like, floats around and has, limbs that are for reaching and grabbing, or you are on the planet and you're bearing weight and you jump and you have muscles. And I mean, this could just be that the art style, people are so used to drawing terrestrial things that you draw it that way, but you gotta stretch yourself a little bit. I don't see an attribution on the art, so I'm not sure if Abyssal is doing the art on his own. Yes, I don't get it. Help me understand what you're talking about. The thing I understand and like is Parsidigon is a cosmic kaiju that's comprised of comets, asteroids, and space debris. Solid, right? Start from there, and make everything else that clear. Alright. Blah. Shadow of Devastation. Oh, Mayuri is going to try one. Soldado unit. Daimao. Oh, so many vowels. Give me more consonants, please. Oh, this is just for fun, as opposed to... Well, it's all for fun. Okay. You've got a giant armored humanoid figure. Definitely some Japanese stylings. The hair, or the sort of pseudo hair. The sword is very ridiculous in Final Fantasy. That handle of that sword is not strong enough to support a sword that looks like that. Okay. Yes. Okay. Oh, look at the formatting. It's very clean. Taijutsu Blade. Secondary weapon, Duality and Karma Strike. Does that mean you're striking their karma? A techno-organic weapon created by an unknown race. Okay. Little is known. Okay, I don't know why this is so popular, but over and over we say, we don't really know anything, but we know this and this and this and this and this and this. You're undermining yourself by saying that you don't know things before telling us a bunch of specific information. Just don't say that you don't know. Just tell us what you do know. It saves time and it's more clear. If you want us to not know, you have to not tell us. That's what not knowing is like. If you tell us things, don't tell us that we don't know. That's confusing. This is not a specific about Mayuri. This is over and over I see this. Okay. Whose motivation is to travel space in order to restore order to chaotic worlds plagued by wars caused by giant rampaging kaiju that was created and sent by another world to conquer this world's to gain an upper hand with the war they're having in their galaxy. That is a mad run-on sentence. In fact, this entire paragraph is 2 sentences. That second sentence is 5 lines long. That is a mad run-on sentence. I think they're trying to be altruistic, right? They're saying we're going to places that have been ravaged. Although, okay, follow me here. If some planet has been ravaged by kaiju, the solution is not to build a new kaiju to send to that planet. They need probably food and money and stable economic conditions and maybe more trade and jobs and stability so they can focus on education so that they're right. You don't send them more kaiju. Like they're saying, we've built a special hurricane that we send into places that have been destroyed by hurricanes, but our hurricane is less destructive. That's not very useful. So, he first came to Earth, so he's been to Earth several times. All right, so he came to the Cretaceous. That was a long time ago. Okay, so I see there's some tyrant kaiju who comes to Earth during the Cretaceous period and is powering itself off the dinosaurs. Excuse me. And Daimao then goes to fight. Okay, that's solid, right? Bad guy, good guy is going to chase him down and try to get him. Hopefully the bad guy gets away to fight another day. But that's different from what you said at the beginning, to restore order to chaotic worlds, right? This is to fight bad guys. Yes. Okay. Each generation's memory and knowledge is passed into a new host. So is this a different kaiju? I'm confused. It's still sleeping, So is it passing its memories around while it's sleeping? If it's sleeping and it passes its memories, does that make you fall asleep? That seems like a bad deal. Okay, it's got knives it can throw. Interesting. A bow. Okay, I like the old-fashioned sort of feudal style attacks. He uses a combination of fists and kicks to open up an opportunity to use his sword. Again, I feel like that's not how swords work, right? I mean, I don't carry a sword around so I can get in close and punch people to open their guard so I can draw my sword and hit them with that sword, right? If anything, it'd be the reverse. The sword keeps me away from them so that I don't get into harm's way the way I would if I was using my fists and my feet. Right? Also, the sword doesn't feel pain, so when I hit you with the sword, I didn't hit myself. Yeah. There's a lot of description going on here. There's a lot of telling me what is and isn't the case. Um, I need less description, and I need more. What's the point? Why do I care? What is interesting about this? And I don't need comparisons. For this says this is where he shines. That language is comparing his capability to other characters' capabilities, and I don't care about that. I just want to know, what does he focus on? What does he try? What's his sort of order of attacks? How often does he use energy? Does he have opinions about characters who have certain tactics? Does he apply different things? Has his fighting style changed over time? Does he have different ways he can approach different sorts of combats? How often is he engaging in combat? Is combat like his first thing, or is he there as a backup in case negotiation fails? All that sort of stuff would be much more interesting than the specific language about things I didn't want to know. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. The limit. The limit is time. Yes. Limbo says this is a writing and storytelling stream. Yes. Okay. We are out. I have 15 minutes. I've got time. People post links. I will talk about those links. That's my deal. Oh, how do you spell cacophony? Is it N-E-Y? No, it's just N-Y. Oh. Okay. Oh. Something else has come in. Yay. Obsidious. Oh. I love that this is spelled the way that I originally wanted to spell Obsidious for the character in Godzilla Unleashed. The official design, is that a snake? I can't make any details out in this. Is that a hand? Is it claws? Is it moving fast? I really have no idea what I'm looking at. It's very confusing. Okay, here's a 3D model made by Mr. J, which looks nothing like the official art. Okay, and then another drawing. Okay, well, we're still working out the details apparently on the visuals for this character for Obsidious. 120 meters tall standing, 110 meters tall on all fours. So you realize that's almost no difference, right? So that's like the difference between like being upright and being hunched over, which makes me think it's not really on all fours. Like, that's interesting. Okay. He was a species that evolved much further and is the last kind to ever exist. Though he looks frightening, he is a caring and sympathetic creature. Okay. Smarter than the average human brain? Now I don't like him. Now I feel competitive. His brain is smarter than my brain? Then why do I care? Able to learn from his mistakes? That is smarter than the average human brain. He lived in a time before the dinosaurs even existed. Okay. So he has a mom and a father. Okay. That makes it sound like he's just... Okay. I don't really like it when there's just kaiju species, and it's just like, everyone's a kaiju. My uncle's a kaiju, my mom's a kaiju, my kids will be kaiju. Again, that makes the character seem not special, right? What made this character special is just that it lived for millions of years. Do they all live for millions of years? Did something happen to get irradiated or hit by a comet, and so this character has lived for millions of years? Or, like, everyone else is just unlucky? Like, if there's so many of them that they were breeding and having progeny, wouldn't they be all over the place? Like, having a species of kaiju is very problematic. Yeah, you really want to have... I mean, superheroes is a great example. Superheroes are regular people where something happens, there's an accident or some weird one-time event that turns them into superheroes. Once you have a bunch of superheroes, you can have two superheroes make another superhero, but that's going to be a small diminishing subset, and it's not going to sort of propagate itself out. So, I like this. Must clear his mind of all hate in anger, I assume, before getting into a fight. He can have violent outbursts. That's interesting. The text is making me think that a violent outburst would be bad. But I think with people who are controlling a monster, they kind of like violent outbursts. So that's an interesting tension. Yes, can lift kaiju over his head. He will not back down from a fight. Okay. He can easily take down monsters who are weaker than he is. It's a little redundant. Has a higher degree of intelligence than any other known kaiju. Nope. Don't compare yourself with other kaiju. That just gets into sort of a measuring contest, which is not... doesn't help anybody. Just makes people competitive. He has not faced any other kaiju, so he must learn about his opponents and try to adapt to their fighting style. I don't think all those statements can be true. He has to learn about opponents and adapt to their fighting style, but he's never actually seen anybody. I'm imagining now that he's in the Matrix, right? He's a kaiju brain who's hooked up to a bunch of electrodes, and he has this idea that he is the greatest and strongest and most powerful kaiju, but actually he's never fought anybody because he's just in this little simulation as a brain, right? Is a sympathetic creature. You can't... Don't tell me that he's a sympathetic creature. Make me sympathize with the creature. Telling me... And that's like telling me that the creature's cute. It should look cute. Don't tell me that I'm supposed to say that it's cute. That's weird. Again, you're taking away my opportunity to react. You're taking away my ability to make a decision by telling me what my opinions are supposed to be. That just makes me feel like, why am I here? Okay. Let's see. And the comment here where Agent Draco says, "Oh, we use meters, not feet." I can convert between meters and feet. Fun fact: American measurements are all defined in metric terms. Do you know that? Yeah. So, for example, the definition of an inch, an American inch, is 2.54 centimeters, right? So an inch is actually defined as a scale of centimeters, which converts, of course, to meters and kilometers and so forth. Yeah, you can use whatever metric system you want. It would be hilarious. You could have an alien creature. You could give its height and weight in alien units that are undefined, or not that we don't know, that are presumably are defined for the aliens. Height 14 squarlarks, and weight is 10 million Google Galls. That would be fantastic. I'd be happy with that. All right. Phantomese, meddler magic / split personality kaiju. So this character meddles in both magic and meddles in split personality kaiju? Or this kaiju is both a meddler in magic and a split personality kaiju? It's not clear. This is what we call a parsing quandary. I don't know where's a comma and where's there's a period. So, and there's a poll. Again, another poll. Everyone's making polls on their characters. I wonder, doing these sorts of things takes me so much time, and everyone complains. But I wonder if I could disable polls in the original Kaiju submissions just to stop people from doing this over and over. Okay, so we've got this very slender, sort of no body, just an apparition sort of thing, flying around. Makes it look like it's going to haunt. So it's certainly got striking stuff. It doesn't look like it has a substantial body. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Weight 0. So it is an apparition. It's got magic, poison. Okay. Young witch. Okay. All right. Well, someone had spotted her and accused her of being a witch. After those events, she had become a phantom after summoning the spirit of one to help her escape her punishment. What? Her eyes and a deep glowing red and is cloaked in a midnight shade purple, and the hands are skeletal with rotten flesh hanging off of them and clearly have been touched by the bubonic plague, other known as Black Death. Okay. Hire an editor. Tighten that up. So, okay. So she helped somebody, someone spotted her and said she was a witch, and now she's a kaiju spirit? I feel like we're missing step 2 there in the middle. Accused her. She was put on trial. She summoned a spirit. She poured a bowl of water. That's a lot of specific detail. Okay, so she summoned a spirit to help her. The spirit was tiny and it flew into her. I think that the physical size of a spirit wouldn't matter, right? I mean, if I'm summoning a magical spirit, that's amazing. It doesn't have to be physically large for me to be excited, right? That's not how it works. Okay, so she thought she had failed, and she was... Okay, and so she's... Yeah, so she had become destructive. Okay. The way the story plays out, it keeps looping back on itself. Let me simplify. Let me give you a tighter story. Young girl has magic powers, helps people with them, but is called a witch and is sentenced to death. She tries to use her magic powers to save herself, but fails, and is burned at the stake. But then the magic that she cast on herself, although it didn't save her from getting burned, it makes her spirit unable to leave, and she becomes a vengeful kaiju. I think that's cleaner. And then you've actually been murdered, which is great. It gives you that sort of revenge motivation. Vengeance is a great thing. So then you're in this magic thing. Now, why is that a kaiju? It seems like it wouldn't be. It seems like you would be venging on sort of a human scale, especially if you're putting this in the 1600s. There's nothing big enough to justify like kaiju level destruction. You know, like ooh, some wooden towns. Yes, yeah. I see the story. I'm not sure why it's a kaiju. That's my question. Why? Why is it a kaiju? A person who becomes a ghost and is getting vengeance or is upset about things doesn't move to a different scale, right? You're there to adjust things on your own human scale. Uh, yeah. 525, miss the shindig. Almost. Just go away for a few more minutes, and then you will have missed it. Excuse me. Mm. Okay. We're gonna do the last one. Fukash, the wolf lizard, and there's a poll. Okay. Wolf lizard. Solid. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Uh, Lycanthropy bite. Does it change into a human? I think it's always a wolf lizard, right? Uh, okay. There was a race of creatures, so again, that makes me worry that this is just a kaiju species, and that's not special. Okay. Yeah. There's some confusion in the origin about when these things existed. You're throwing around different scales of time periods here, kind of willy-nilly. And I don't care. I don't care about any of that. Uh, if you have a history lesson that goes across billions of years, just give me the last. Just give me the last thing. Uh, Emerged during the last ice age. Done. All the previous paragraphs you can just cut. Uh, Wait. First service in the 1980s. Now we okay. First service in the 1980s. Done. Everything before that you can throw away. It ran on a rampage and attacked with full hostility. Okay, so I think you've missed an opportunity here. You sort of just implied that there's just a bunch of these, or there's just one, but it's also part wolf. Wolves are not an ancient thing, right? So you can't be part wolf and be an ancient thing because wolves are recent. Uh, but I feel like there's no justification for why this thing exists. Uh, which you don't have to get into that, but that's the interesting part, and that's what people are asking. I feel like all these false starts about extinctions of the dinosaurs, age of mammals, the ice age, modern Europe, you're throwing around these different suggestions about when there's going to be something. They reemerge in Europe, attacking many citizens, but then it's in Great Britain, which is Europe-ish. Frozen in an iceberg, but icebergs aren't okay. Uh, so give me something that created this. How? So I think what you want here is that this thing was created. It's a one of, and somehow it was created and then frozen and thawed out in more modern times, right? But I need some interesting reason why it was created, and don't just throw around lots of different time periods. Just pick something. It was like it was created here. Uh, there was an electrical storm. There was a volcanic eruption, and the chemicals mixed and something. Or there was a wolf cub was abducted by aliens. Something. The way the lizard and wolf bits are all put together, solid. Names okay. The combat descriptions are all good, but you don't seem to know you're throwing a lot of words about why and when this thing existed. Uh, to make this more of a story writing thing, so the reason we give characters an origin is not to justify that the characters exist, right? We know the characters exist. Think about what is the character, what's the style of the character, what's the mood that you want people to be in when they're reading stories about this character. And then select an origin period and a story and a reason that helps to create that mood, right? Uh, Sherlock Holmes lives in a particular time and place because the kind of crimes he's solving are endemic to that time and place, right? So in London in 1880s or so, well, you have a well-established, known center, right? London is very civilized, crime is understood, and yet there's all these tendrils, all these connections to other places that are less well understood, right? You have all this shipping, all these exotic things that are coming into London, and so you have this. You're really on the forefront of like a well understood, known central universe, and all of this unknown stuff that's all around you, right? And that's what makes Sherlock Holmes work, right? And so you need to have that contrast, but he exists within his world. Rambo exists because you have this enemy who's sort of unbeatable, and no matter how strong you are, you know you still lose in reality. So you have this character who's like even stronger and somehow is strong enough, right? And that's why he exists in that time period and in that place. So instead of telling me where and when this character exists just to make up something because you see other people have done that, skip that. Think about your character and come up with a mood, and then go back and fill in your origin to help push that mood, right? So that way, you're not just wasting our time. You're actually building to your point the whole way through. All right, it is after 2 o'clock. I've done my hour of monster comments. This was good. I thought this went reasonably well. We will keep doing these every week or two. The end of this month, I'm traveling some, so I don't know. I'll always have the next one posted up in the shout box. It has the link. Hopefully, this is easy for everybody. I think this YouTube format is much superior to other things we've tried in the past. Thank you all, and I'll be back in shout box for a while so we can do a little sort of after action report here. All right. And how do I stop? That's always exciting too, right? It's not clear how I stop.